What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to Just Ballin'. And today, I just kind of wanted to talk about the 2025 NBA draft. And I don't know really where this is going specifically for this podcast. I just kind of wanted to ramble my thoughts about the 2025 draft outside of like a mock draft and really just kind of talk about these prospects, specifically what they're doing right now. Maybe we can get into like a little bit of like what a fit could be at the NBA level and where I could see them going in the draft, who needs to improve their stock throughout conference tournament play, which is going to be this upcoming weekend, and then also March Madness play, which is right around the corner. Some of these guys will be in March Madness. Some of these guys will not be in March Madness. So, yeah, we're just going to have like a couple things. We're going to go back and forth. I'm still in the process of reshuffling my big board, and I don't really have like a firm consensus on my top like 60. I don't know. I think like last year for my Sross video, I did 3 versions of my top, or I did 4 versions of my top 30. I've done 2 versions of my top 30 this year, and I kind of want to stretch it out, but I want it to kind of be still in a more concise way where I can, like, it's kind of a lot to a big board video in 30 minutes to talk about 60 prospects. It's really not that much in detail, so it's kind of nice to keep it 30 minutes of prospects, something like that. Either way, I just want to talk about this draft because we are seeing the NBA season kind of come to a close. Well, we got about a month and a half left of the regular season. A lot of teams are trying to tank right now for a spot in the draft, and a lot of teams over the last few weeks are trying to get that number 1 overall pick, or at least to have a chance at the number 1 overall pick. Like Philly has been horrible since the trade deadline. They shut down Joel Embiid. I'm sure they kind of wish maybe they didn't win that game against Golden State. Either way, they want to keep their pick in the top 6. Toronto is kind of doing an ethical tank, and they have been all year long. Brooklyn, I think, has been trying to tank, but Jordi Fernandez is keeping this team too competitive. Chicago is getting in the mix now a little bit. Charlotte and Washington been there all year with Utah, New Orleans. San Antonio is going to get in there. Portland is trying to get out of there, but Phoenix is going to be in there. Their pick is going to Houston, and then you have like Dallas, all their injuries right now. So yeah, let's just kind of talk about this. We could start at the top with Cooper Flagg over there at Duke, who has just been incredible since conference play started. I think a fun topic has been like, is Cooper Flagg the best college prospect since blank? And honestly, when you go back in NBA history, like, he's better than any 2024 college player. That's easy. 2023, easy as well. Brandon Miller was great at college, but he's a lot better than him, than what Brandon Miller was at Bama. Like, Pablo was great at Duke, and Jabari was good at Auburn, and Chet at Gonzaga, but he's definitely at least better as a prospect and more hyped up than those guys. I think Cade Cunningham would have a little bit of a debate what he did at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State wasn't actually supposed to be, if I remember correctly, in the tournament that year. They had some like suspension going on that got lifted. He was great at Oklahoma State, and there was a reason why he was the number 1 overall pick. But to be honest with you, I mean, Cooper Flagg is doing it at a much bigger program, and I think just the two-way ability and the shot actually being not too bad this year. Like, Anthony Edwards was fun at Georgia, but there was a chance like Ant wasn't even going to go 1 in the stretch. He shot 40% from the field and 29% from 3 at Georgia. That's crazy. He shot 29% from 3 at Georgia, and he's shooting like 40% from 3 on like 10 attempts a night this year for the Timberwolves. So I think you got to go back to basically Zion Williamson, and that is where the debate can start. Like, I was 19 when Zion was kind of like this big topic out of Duke, and everybody was trying to tank for Zion, including my Knicks. And I remember how big he was, so I'm not going to try to get recency bias with Cooper Flagg. But if you would say Cooper is better than Zion, I mean, it's better than, like, Trae Young had a lot of hype, but you're really not kind of going into the Trae Youngs of the world. 2017, Fultz had a lot of hype, but I feel like Flagg has been better as a prospect. You're probably going back to Ben Simmons, maybe Karl Anthony Towns, I would say, if it's not Zion, but Zion's been great as of late. But Cooper Flagg, man, the shot has been playing. I know a lot of people were questioning the form this year, and it's still a little wonky. It's not the most perfect form, but 38% from 3 on 3.7 attempts. If you kind of find the pull-up numbers, the catch and shoot numbers, they play as well. 2.8 stocks, great help defender, great on-ball defender, very good playmaker. The one question mark is his handle. We've seen kind of late in games, he could be prone to turn the ball over. Duke hasn't had like a lot of close games this year either. I'm not sure if I could sort this by, oh my God, they beat Wofford by 51 points. So like, yeah, they beat Wake Forest by 9. Like, I guess it was earlier when they lost to Kentucky and they lost to Kansas, and even Clemson. You can see kind of turnovers late in the game and him losing the ball. And I think that's something that'll grow over time. He's 18 years old. He's supposed to be a high school freshman right now. So I'm not worried about that. He's the clear 1-1 in this draft. And no matter who's picking number 1 overall, they're going to draft him. I think a question is like, say the Pelicans get one, do they think about moving Zion, or do they think Zion, Murphy, Flagg is the future? How does Toronto look with Cooper Flagg? Does that mean there could be an RJ Barrett trade down the line? Like, I just wonder, like, everybody's taking Flagg number one, but would they make a big corresponding move to that or try to add to Flagg, or either way going forward? So he's the number one guy in this class. Number two, in my opinion, right now is Dylan Harper of Rutgers. He, most years, would probably be number one. It would be really interesting to see if, like, Flagg wasn't in this class and say he was next year, which would be crazy with Boozer, Peterson, and Abanza. But say it was like Harper, Bailey, Edgecombe, Tre Johnson all going for number one. That would be really fun right now. And I do think there's a little bit of a tier drop off between Flagg and Harper just because of the defensive ability, and I trust Flagg's shot a little bit more right now. Either way, Harper has been shooting the ball better from three. He had 50% against USC, 50% against Washington. Purdue, he shot 60%. It's just Rutgers hasn't been great this year. And if they do want to make the tournament, they're going to have to win the Big Ten tourney. What are they this year? 14 and 16. Yeah, you usually don't see teams under 500 make March Madness. So Harper, though, great size at 6'6", good weight on him right now, can get to the rim, looks very fast out there, can run in transition, and I trust his finishing at the rim as well. So I think there's a lot of teams that would look at Harper that are number two. Washington would take him at two. I think Charlotte would have a debate if they think he could be a good fit in the backcourt with LaMelo, but I would take him at two. I think Utah should take him at two. I think everybody should pretty much take him at two. The only team would be interesting is like maybe the Raptors, but no, I think he should probably go two unless a team really falls in love with Ace Bailey. So I have Ace, like I'm just have like CBS's sports prospects just in case I forget somebody. But basically I go back and forth between Edgecombe and Ace. I like Edgecombe a little bit more, but it really depends on who's picking, right? Like if it's Utah at three, I'd rather Ace Bailey for that team. If it's like New Orleans, I'd rather VJ Edgecombe. I think it's more about the plug and play on who could be there. Like if it's Houston, I'd rather Edgecombe. I'd rather somebody that's a great point of attack defender, an incredible athlete, a positive shooter this year at Baylor, and someone that doesn't need to take 15 shots a night to be effective on the basketball floor. And I think that's what Edgecombe can provide you. He's averaging 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals this year for the Baylor Bears, 36% from three, and that three-point shot has been getting better and better over the course of the year. He's had some rough games as of late, but some positive games, and he's asked to do a lot too in this Baylor offense as he's still incredibly young. 6'5", does need to put on a little bit of weight, but I think Edgecombe is my number 3 prospect, and I do think a lot of teams would take him at 3. The only other player would be Ace Bailey. I've been seeing some Tre Johnson over Ace Bailey hype as of late. I think Johnson's a better playmaker, but I do think Ace gets a little bit too much hate for his passing. I'd like to see him more so in the NBA system. Ace is a very good shooter. He could finish at the rim when he gets to the rim. It's like he doesn't have a problem when he's there, but he also stops and takes these fadeaway jumpers, and I don't know if that's just his style of play. Will that translate to the next level? But he's an incredible athlete. He could be a true 3-level scorer, good mid-range shot, 6'10", can handle the ball like a guard, will also need to put on weight over time. But I think the upside is just immense for Ace. Like, if Washington's there at 3 and it's Edgecombe or Ace, I'm taking Ace. I'm taking the high upside of Ace Bailey, and hopefully he could be a difference maker for you long term. I don't know if I love his fit in Charlotte, just because, like, LaMelo versus Ace versus Miles Bridges versus Brandon Miller, who's going to get to 20 shots first. I think they are a team that could use a VJ Edgecombe. Toronto would also get kind of interesting as well. How does Ace look out there with Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Ingram? Like, could there eventually be a corresponding move? I think under Jordy Fernandez in Brooklyn would be great. Who knows? Maybe him in Philly could be a good spot because he can play off of Embiid and Maxey there. Chicago, him and Matas could be fun. San Antonio, I really have to wrap my head around, but we don't know if they're going to be picking that high. But I think like Washington, Utah are very good fits for him going forward. Maybe not. Like, I don't know. I think I really want to see Ace in. I really want to see Ace in either Brooklyn or Utah because I really trust Will Hardy, and Jordy Fernandez's development as a head coach for their rebuilds. So yeah, I think that's like my top 4. And then Tre Johnson has actually leapfrogged Kasparas Jakucionis for me pretty recently. He's averaging 20 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists. If we pull up conference play, and people are saying the best conference of all time in the SEC, Tre Johnson has been a bucket, especially over his last few games as well. He got off to a rough start, but he's still averaging 21 points on 37% from 3 in conference play. And then if we really look over, I guess like his last, how many games is this? 6 games against Bama, Kentucky, Conway Boyles, some good defenses. He's averaging 26 points, 3 assists, 48, 47, 89 splits. That's incredible. And I think Tre Johnson has a real play to be number 5 in this draft. I still can't see him going ahead of Ace Bailey right now, but man, I think he's kind of leapfrog Kasparas, and there are some good fits for him. I worry about the defense more than some other guys. 6'6", he's also another player that needs to put on some weight, but man, that shot is going to play. There's some fits that I really like here. I would, if Chicago does make Kobe White or Dosunmu one of those guys available, I'd like to see him in Chicago. I mean, even in Philly, a little redundant with McCain, but I think that's a good problem to have. That would be a great fit for him. Even Toronto, I think would be a good fit. New Orleans. I mean, if it comes down to Utah, Washington, or Charlotte, I think those are all fine fits for Tre Johnson as well, because I do think he could be a little bit of a playmaker. Not as good as maybe Kasparas Jakucionis, who would be like my next guy that I want to talk about. The shot has not been great over the last few games, at least the three-point shot. He did shoot well against Michigan, but you pull up his game log. There's been some rough outings for sure. Iowa, Wisconsin, who's been kind of a beast in the Big Ten this year, not great. Underperformed against Rutgers, where the other freshmen looked better. Ohio State, he didn't play well. But there's some really good games too. Back-to-back good games against Minnesota and UCLA. Maybe not powerhouses in the Big Ten. But even a game against Michigan where he had 17 points, 35% from the field, struggles a little bit at the rim, and I think I like him though as a prospect. I like 6'6". I think he's strong, stocky. He's gonna have no problem absorbing contact at the next level. I can't speak. Sorry. He's a little turnover happy, very turnover prone. 3.5 turnovers this year. That's a lot. Per 40 minutes, 4.4 a game. Yeah, that's a lot. I think he's gonna be fine defensively. I'm not actually worried about Kasparas' defense. And I think he's got good vision. He's not the best passer in this draft. Like Yegor Demon, I think probably takes that crown, but I think Kasparas, like the potential, the upside is there where like I don't think he should fall past 7. He's my 6th ranked prospect right now. I do have Johnson ahead of him, and teams could want a point guard that could lead them throughout the rebuild of right now. I think San Antonio probably wouldn't make too much sense after getting Fox, but Utah could use him. Even like, I know they have Collier, but if that happens, I'm fine with it. New Orleans could use him with DeJounte Murray missing some time next year, and hey, it's not a bad idea to think DeJounte Murray isn't going to be there forever. Washington, I'm fine with, but that would kind of stink the season they're having to end up with Kasparas. I mean, if Charlotte falls to 6 and he's there, I would think about it just because LaMelo misses time every year. It's not an issue to invest into the backup point guard spot. Philadelphia or OKC, I don't really love that idea. I would love him in Houston as like somebody that can be behind Fred VanVleet next year. But or Dallas behind Kyrie, or now that they're not going to have Kyrie for a little bit of the year. But I think that's too low. I think he would go a lot higher. Maybe they'd have to trade up. Either way, like, yeah, I wonder if I do like a lottery. What happens here? I'm just doing oh my God. And Philadelphia gets number 1. San Antonio gets 2. Yeah, let's not do that. Okay, so next player I want to talk about, Khaman Maluach. Some people have him in like their top 5. There's potential that he could be a true elite rim protector at the NBA level. And I know he's only averaging 1.1 blocks, but if you watch Duke this year, it's either teams are just way too scared to shoot it in the paint because they have probably the best defensive front court. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because there might be a team in the SEC. I'm really only tuned into college basketball to watch the prospects that are like kind of top 60 on my radar. And then somebody might stand out, but I'm not like super locked in to like a Wisconsin this year or an Iowa State. Some guys or some teams that may not have like bona fide top 60 guys in the draft, but because there's just so much to watch, right? At least I'm watching the NBA, I'm watching this, I'm watching the NFL, MLB, but those are in kind of different time periods. Irrelevant. Let's go back to Khaman. But there's times where just teams do not shoot in the paint because of Khaman. It's kind of like that Wemby effect over in college basketball. And him and Flagg operate so well together. I'd really like to see Khaman with an athletic, quick power forward defensively, because I think like this version of him could be great at the NBA level. And now you're thinking of like the range where Khaman could go. I don't hate the idea of New Orleans if it came down to it. I think him and Scotty Barnes could be a joy to watch defensively one day in that front court. OKC, if you're thinking you're going to get priced out of Isaiah Hartenstein eventually when he's a free agent in 2 years, not a bad idea. I like Chicago. I mean, Patrick Williams isn't really the defender I thought he was going to be, but yeah, I think him and Matas could be a fun front court. I think him and Tamati Kamara could be a great front court, but you also invested into Klingon last year. I mean, you could have some Wemby insurance. That's more than fine with me over there in San Antonio. Dallas, probably not, right? Like, they have a ton of big men at the moment. I don't mind Houston. Like, I think you can invest in a backup center. It's not going to be Steven Adams and Jock Landale forever. I just talked about an athletic, quick defensive power forward. Tari Eason, yeah, or even Amen Thompson and Khaman could really help out his development. Even if he went to like Orlando, but they have a ton of centers right now. It's crazy because like San Antonio's got 2 lottery picks at the moment. OKC's got 3 because they're technically at 7 via Philly, 14 via Clippers, and then 16 via Miami. But that's wild. Utah's got a couple here in the top 20. But yeah, I think Khaman's a polarizing prospect. I would take him in the top 10, and I do think he's the best center in this draft. Asa Newell, I'm a big fan of at Georgia. I think he's an incredible athlete, and I think he's going to be a great screen setter. I think he can roll to the rim. I think he's got good hands to catch alley-oops. I'm not worried about that. And he's kind of a work in progress, and I kind of like the confidence he has in his three-point shot. At least he's taking them this year, right? At least we're getting a sample size. I talked about Anthony Edwards shooting 29% from 3 at Georgia. Not Asa Newell, but hey, it is the Georgia connection. How many threes? Newell's taken 79 threes this year. It's an all right sample size. It's not bad. And I think he could be this hybrid 4 or 5. I'd love to see him with Wemby at the NBA level. I think that could be a really fun addition. I think OKC could really use him there at 7. I mean, if Brooklyn like falls to 8, it's not the worst idea in the world, but I think for what their expectations were going into this year, that would kind of suck for them. I would like him in Portland. Yeah, I would be a big fan of that as well. Even Dallas, like if you're going to worry about Anthony Davis and you want to get more size there, that's also a good fit. So I think there's definitely some teams that could be involved. And I wonder this year, because we only got, what, 1 trade? Did we get a lot? Yeah, we got the Rob Dillingham trade, and we got the Denny Avdia trade in the lottery last year. I could be forgetting one, but I think we could see some movement here. Like, I don't know if OKC is going to draft 3 players in the top 16, just with the way their roster is constructed. They may look to trade down. They may look to trade out. Could San Antonio want to make 2 picks? They didn't want to make 2 picks last year. I think we could see some real movement here in the lottery, which always makes things exciting going forward. So yeah, I think Asa Newell is somebody I would take in the top 10. I'm a fan. And then I kind of lump these guys together because they are the best shooters in this draft, like pure shooter. I don't know. I think Tre Johnson's probably the best shooter in this draft. And then you got Lee McNeely at Georgetown, who I did just slightly bump up over Kanepo because I do like the defense a little bit more than Cons. I know he's a little bit skinnier, but I think McNeely moves well. Laterally, he could drop well, and I think he can navigate ball screens as a defender well. He can get over. He knows when to go under, and I think playing under Dan Hurley helps him out a lot. We've seen some good defenders come through the pass at UConn with Jordan Hawkins and Andre Jackson and Stephon Castle. So yeah, McNeely 35% from 3 this year. He needs to, I think, get a little bit stronger to absorb contact at the rim, but I think he's one of the best complementary pieces in this draft. And you put him in San Antonio, chef's kiss of a fit. You put him in Houston, a team that needs shooting. I would love to see him in Orlando. I don't know if they're going to have the assets or finish low enough to get him, but I'm a big fan of Liam McNeely. And then Kanepo, I'm higher on the most. I think he's got a little bit of a playmaking ability to him, where he's not really asked to do a lot of playmaking or a lot of initiating at Duke because you have Zion James and Tyrese Proctor and Cooper Flagg and a lot of these veteran guys. And Isaiah Evans has been coming onto the scene as of late. But Khan is as, I think, sure of it gets as a shooter. 46 from the field, 39 from 3, 91 from the line, 13 points, 4 rebounds. I mean, this is one of the best shooting seasons for a lottery pick, I think, of the last few years. Like, Reed Sheppard was great last year, 53, 52, 83 splits, but he also has 4 inches on Reed Sheppard and is a miles better defender than what Reed Sheppard was at Kentucky. So I think Khan is similar to McNeely, as this is a great connected piece. Portland, San Antonio, OKC, Houston, Dallas. These are great fits for these guys to go kind of in the middle of the lottery, like the 7 to 11 range, I think are great fits. I briefly mentioned him earlier, but I think Yegor Demon is the best passer in this draft, and he's a really intriguing prospect because gets off to the a great start this year at BYU, but they're playing Central Arkansas, UC Riverside, Queens, Idaho, Mississippi Valley State, which is, I think, the worst team in college basketball, or it's up there. And then conference play starts, and we can kind of pull up his shooting splits in conference play. It's not great. I like the decision making. I like the ball handling for somebody that's 6'9", 6'8". He can get to the rim, but he's got good court vision. You look at conference play throughout 19 games, 38, 23, 66 splits. That's disgusting. It's not good. It's actually been, it had to get worse last time I checked it. Yeah, I mean, his last 3 games, I've been watching him since this Arizona game, but he did not shoot well against State. He did not shoot well against Virginia, from the field at least. He did not shoot well against Iowa State either. Hey, those are question marks, man, and that may drop Yegor out of the lottery. That's definitely a cause for concern, but I think the playmaking at his size, I mean, if San Antonio has 2 first-round picks or lottery picks, if OKC has 3 top 16 picks, I would use one on him. I think Dallas, if you're going back and forth between, I don't think you're going to be in a spot to get Kasparas, but Jeremiah Fears versus Igor Demin, I would think about that. I think Portland, I don't really know if I would take him, but I think the hybrid ability of him is very encouraging. But yeah, I think you have to realize, do you think you can fix his shot? I know Kevin Young probably wish he did a little bit better with the shot this year. There's been moments, like that Arizona game was great. And I'm like, this is somebody that could be a top 10 pick in the draft because of the playmaking, the shot making. There's like, he just feels like a veteran running the offense out there at his age. But if that shot's not going to play, it's tough. Jeremiah Fears, I think, is a little bit more of a project. He's had some great scoring games as of late, including that Mississippi State game was incredible. And he also played well. At least like, there's sometimes like he's just not finishing at the rim, and maybe there's some wild shots. And is he going to use his right hand or his left hand, or is he very dominant with the right hand? And if he's not going to be able to switch, I kind of worry about that a little bit. But 16 points this year as a main offensive weapon for Arkansas. I like his defense. I think he's scrappy there. He's 6'4". It's not like he's 6'1" or 6'2". I mean, if we learn at the combine that he is 6'2", then I may be worried a little bit about his defense long term. But I think he's got good court vision. He can navigate ball screens offensively. He can attack closeouts. And yeah, you're looking at that Dallas range as a backup point guard. You're looking at, I think Orlando could look at him at 15, with maybe Anthony Black being a little stagnant this year. So yeah, I like Jeremiah Fears as a prospect though, but top 10, it gets a little bit difficult. Another point guard that I've been loving is Jase Richardson. And I think he's earned himself maybe some lottery consideration because of the shot. Now, at Michigan State, especially at the start of the year, coming off the bench, wasn't asked to do a whole lot. They got a lot of playmakers on that team, like Cohen Carr, one of the more exciting players. But that Oregon game was a true breakout game for Jase, and now he's on everybody's map, and he's just been efficient this year. You look at all these games where he shot above 50%. He shot 18 games above 50%. And just, 9 games under 50%? That is impressive for a freshman. He's been a good three-point shooter. He's got a good ball handle. He can get to the rim, and he can finish at the rim, and he can finish at the free throw line. He's 6'3". I don't mind the defense, but he's been asked to stand in the corner a lot this year for the Spartans. But now that he's been starting as of late, like, you're seeing him a little bit more involved, which is great. Had a good game against Michigan. Danny Wolf had a good game there as well. I think he's played himself into top 16 hype, and I think you can have a real question. I don't think he's got as good court vision and passing ability as Jeremiah Fears. Definitely not as Igor Demin, but the offensive upside as a scorer is there. And always got to mention he's the son of Jason Richardson. So I guess we could just hit off some point guards, and then maybe we can finish this off like going by position. So LeBaron Philon, I'm not a huge fan of right now as a first-round pick. I think he should definitely go back to school. Next year when Mark Sears leaves, he could be way more involved in the Alabama offense. I worry about the shot. I worry about the defense. And I think there is some off-ball, like, exciting or off-ball progress over the course of the year defensively. But right now he's like a late first-round pick for me in terms of my big board. As I'm shuffling it around, like, he's around the 20, I think it was 26 to 33 range. I don't know. I just think you can maybe make more money and you can help out your draft stock. And we'll see how the point guard class is going to look next year. That I think he should maybe stay another year. I'm just trying to see any other point guards that I want to talk about here. Boogie Fland, I guess, is another interesting one. He suffered the season-ending injury. Somebody that had a good three-point shot this year. Very shifty with the ball in his hands. I think he's a little similar to like Rob Dillingham in size when Rob Dillingham was at Kentucky, but he struggled finishing at the rim in terms of Boogie Fland. And then he suffered a season-ending injury. And there's defensive questions. I think he's a fine passer. Probably a better passer than what Rob Dillingham was at Kentucky for sure. I don't know. Maybe a team takes a flyer on him with an early second, late first. But I wonder if he would also think about going back to school and improving the draft stock like LeBaron Philon would. So I guess out of like pure guards, like kind of like true point guards that I'm thinking of, like Cam Jones, I think I view as a 2. But yeah, so we can kind of go back to just some of the top guys. And then I'll hit on like the international guys, I think, later. Derek Queen, I haven't mentioned yet. Derek Queen's been so much fun to watch at Maryland this year. That Montverde team, McNeely, Cooper Flagg, Derek Queen, Asa Newell are all going to be like potential lottery picks. I mean, Derek Queen's been a beast this year. Fun nickname. The Crab 5, Maryland's been a great story. That Michigan State loss hurt, but they've been great with Reese, Gillespie, Derek Queen. 16-9 this year, 53% from the field. I'm not as high on Derek Queen as an NBA prospect, though, just because I worry about the defense as a rim protector. Is he going to be quick enough to go up against these much quicker NBA or bigs? And he's not a shooter. He's a big body, but would you take the big body in this draft and you're going to give him post touches a couple times a night? Like we saw Zach Edey go 9 in a weak class, and he has not been getting a lot of post touches for Memphis this year. Now, Derek Queen's a freshman. Zach Edey was a senior, so I think there's a lot more room for Derek Queen to grow. I would take a chance on him. You know what? I think Atlanta at 17, that's the ballpark where I like him. And if you think he could be a better defender than Okongwu, because I haven't loved Onyeka's defense this year, I would think about it. I'm a little bit higher on Thomas Sorber's rim protection. And I think Queen is probably better than Danny Wolf. But I think that's around the range rather than top 10 where people have him gone a little bit as of late. So I like Derek Queen, but I really like Colin Murray-Boyles, who I think is becoming a lottery pick just because of the defense. He would be a consensus top 10 guy if he wasn't 6'7", because now he's in like a tweener position. He's shooting 27% from 3 this year. He barely took any threes last year. He's a good scorer at the rim. He's got a good ball handle for somebody at 6'7", and he's one of the best defenders in this draft class. I mean, when you're talking about the best defenders in the class, I mean, I think Flagg is up there. I think Khaman is up there. I think Edgecombe is up there. And then he might be better than Edgecombe as a defender, honestly. Khaman and him are, I guess, different defenders, but he might be the second best perimeter defender outside of Cooper Flagg. And we knew that. Colin Murray-Boyles would have been a first-round pick last year, in my opinion. And I think he's helped his draft stock this year. And I think teams look to add defense, look to add positional versatility where they could switch on to multiple guys. And San Antonio could use that. Portland could use that, improve their defense. Houston, you want to add another defender? Why not? I would love him in Dallas. I think that'd be a great fit. Just throw him through the OKC train. It could just be another great defender for them. I don't think Orlando really needs defense, but Atlanta, they're trying to find that identity. Utah could definitely use him. If Minnesota wants another defender, Indiana would be a great fit for Colin Murray-Boyles, but I guess what they've done with Jarris Walker, that doesn't encourage me too much. So next up, Rasheer Fleming, A10 beast this year. He had a monster game the other night, or it was against Richmond, where he's just so eye-popping. The athleticism, he's 6'9". I think it's a true 6'9". He's strong right now and hopefully continues to get stronger, but his ability to space the floor, shooting 43% from 3 this year at 6'9", good ball handle, can run in transition with the ball in his hands, without the ball in his hands. He's got a post-scoring ability to him, and I think, a stretch 4 that can play defense, that's a crazy athlete. That's an uber athlete. That's one of the best athletes in this draft. It's like him, Edgecombe, and then some other guys up there. That's got to be warrant of a top 20 pick. I think, I was worried about this range of prospects, but when you're talking about like Colin Murray-Boyles, Rasheer Fleming, Danny Wolf, Jase Richardson, Derek Queen, that's a really good tier to be in, I think, for this draft. So I'm a big Rasheer Fleming fan. Maybe scouts would like to see it against a little bit better competition in the A10, but you're playing some good teams in the A10. I actually don't know the A10 standings this year, but at least can I actually see the A10 standings? Yeah, here we go. Like VCU, respectable program. George Mason, Dayton. Hey, they produced some guys over the years. You got Loyola. St. Joe's is there. St. Louis. They got Robbie Avila, Duquesne, St. Bonaventure. Shout out Woj. They got some good teams this year. Then I guess a little bit of a drop off. Rhode Island, Davidson. Definitely some notable programs. Better than my Temple Owls conference in the American right now. Danny Wolf. I guess we could talk about the two centers that are near each other. But Danny Wolf, I think he's going to be asked to play the 5 at the NBA level. He's 7 feet tall. He's playing power forward right now because he's playing with Vlad Golden, who was at FAU last year, came over with Dusty May at Michigan this year. And Wolf, the three-point shot is sometimes a little bit inconsistent, but that is an encouraging and appealing part of his game. 7 feet tall, can handle the ball well. A little bit of a weird release, and do you think that's going to be fine? But he's not a good free throw shooter. But he's a good playmaker. He's a good ball handler of his size. I worry about the defense, and I think you're just drafting him for his offensive versatility. Somebody you could put at the 4, you could put at the 5. You think he could be around a 34-35% three-point shooter. You can have 5 shooters out there, and you can also put the ball on the ground, attack closeouts, which is very rare for somebody at 7 feet tall, and then be able to either finish at the rim or make the extra pass. I'm a fan of Danny Wolf in this class. Brooklyn, they have, Tankathon has him just mocked there. Thinking about that. Hey, you want to throw him and Claxton out there, him and Day'Ron Sharpe. Why not? I think there's some fun fits for Danny Wolf. If Joyce Randall is out of Minnesota, they bring back Nas. I'm fine with him going there. Fine with him playing with Bam and Khalil Ware over in Miami. I think there's some fun fits for Danny Wolf for sure. And then the other one is Thomas Sorber. I forget the injury, but he's out for the year at Georgetown. recently happened. His last game was on February 15th, so I guess not really that recent anymore. It was the game against Butler, but a good rim protector, a physical rebounder, a little bit skinny, or not really a little bit skinny. He's listed as 255. I don't know if he's 255, but either way, 6'10", like really good defensive instincts, either working the pick and roll, post defense, inside defense. He's got it right now. And I think he was playing himself into a top 20-ish pick. I'm not sure if the injury is going to drop him down a little bit, but I think Sorber is still a first round pick in a, not a weak big man class. I mean, there's a lot of big power forwards, and or like Khaman Maluach is not a big power forward, but like Newell's one. But I think he's someone that could be a first round pick. I've talked about, I guess, a lot of guys in this. I think we can kind of go a little bit rapid fire. Cam Jones, I love watching him at Marquette. His shot's a little bit down this year, but he's been asked to do a ton. Still been a 37% career three-point shooter at Marquette. Can make an extra pass, can play perimeter defense, can run in transition. He's 6'4". I think he's a good playmaker. I mean, if he's going to be a good shooter, I'd love to see him in Orlando. I think they could be a team that could really want Cam Jones. Another player that we could hit on, Adu Thero, playing there in Arkansas. Not a good shooter either, but somebody that's a great athlete, a good defender, can finish at the rim, an incredible cutter and slasher. And I think there's value for that in the first round because he's 6'6", can guard multiple positions. I think another person that could probably put on a little bit of weight at the NBA level. Alex Caravan. I think this draft lacks mid to late round shooting because you got McNeely, you got Tre Johnson and Conkinipple in the lottery, but Nolan Traore struggles with the three-point shot. Same with Jeremiah Fears, Ben Seraph, Conroy Boyles, LeBaron Philon, Hugo Gonzalez. A lot of these guys struggle with their three-point shot, where I think there could be value for Caravan, who's a fantastic cutter, very smart in the half court, helps he play, like learning from Dan Early for 3 years. Not as good of a three-point shooter this year than he was on the title teams the last 2 years, but, you know, a career 37% from three guy. And I know his looks were so easy when he was playing with Donovan Clingan and Hawkins and Andre Jackson and Castle and Tristan Newton. But yeah, I think either way, Caravan should be a first round pick because of his shot. And if Orlando can snag him with that Nuggets pick, I think that would be great. Janai Broome is another like a high motor, high intensity guy. He's a little bit older, 5-year college player, might win the Wooden Award. It's going to be him or Cooper Flagg. But I think he brings energy and intensity on the defensive end of the floor. It's just he's going to be like 23 years old, 23 years old. Do you think about using a first round pick on him? But physical guy inside, I would draft him in the first round. I think the UNC guys are up for grab right now. Like Drake Powell, I like his defense. He's had some good games as of late, as UNC has been winning games as well. I think they're like 20-11 or something on the year now. 20-11, as they rattled off some wins against inferior ACC opponents this year for sure. I think Powell has 3D upside. I'd be interested to see if he ends up going back to college. And Ian Jackson, I think, is a little bit more polished of a scorer, not as good of a defender as Drake Powell. Neither one of them are great playmakers at the moment, and I don't know if we're going to see that as long as RJ Davis is there right now. And I wonder where Elliot Cadeau is going to be next year. Neat Clifford, he's been on a shooting tear as of late. Could have been a first round pick last year. Rounding off his last 5 games, 66% from 3, 80%, 33%. Didn't hit a 3 against Nevada. But then 1,000. Wow. He had all his threes against the other game against Nevada, and he's a fantastic rebounder. I love these guys that just crash the glass. Like, I fell in love with Devin Carter that way in last year's cycle, and Clifford might have a little bit more size on Carter. I think Carter was 6'2", 6'3". Clifford's 6'5", but he can crash the glass. He gets tip-ins. He's a good playmaker. He is the hub and the focus of the Colorado State offense, but I think he should be a first-round pick. Honestly, the production is there. I know there's potential in a way. So I guess some other guys we can hit on. Carter Bryant and Will Riley kind of fall into a similar tier. These guys have potential, but will they stay another year in college? Carter Bryant is not utilized a ton at Arizona this year, but he's someone that's 6'8", maybe 6'9". I think he looks tall out there. Form looks good. He's a solid shooter. It's just he's not playing a lot. But I'll always go back to Peyton Watson at UCLA, who averaged 3 points on 32, 22, 68 splits and still went in the first round. So Carter Bryant easily, if a team thinks potential in him, to go in the first round. And the other one being Will Riley. When he's on this year, the shot looks so smooth. It looks so easy out there. He's 6'8". He's very skinny, and I think that hurts his defense a little bit. But man, I think there's some upside in taking him in the first round. Like, I'd rather take, I think, the chance on Will Riley than like a Boogie Fland at the moment or Hugo Gonzalez. Because we can finish off talking about some of the international guys. I mean, None of them have really been great shooters this year. So you got Noah Essengay playing at Ratio Farm with Ben Seraph. He's more so of like an off-ball slasher cutter, a little bit of a post game, can work the pick and roll as the big in that. The handle is a work in progress, but can get to the free throw line, and I think is not. I think it's a little bit of a project for sure. I think he's more polished than Tre Johnson, not as much as Zachary Reese-Shea is. I'm starting to like now kind of dig deep into the international tape, because once I usually go full in on international tape when the college season is over, which is going to be in about a month. Kind of sad. You have Nolan Traore, who is a top 5 or 6 prospect going into the year, and the shot has not been playing at St. Quentin this year, but he's got the size. He's playing against very good competition over there, and is one of the best passers in this draft. It's like Yegor Demon and him, honestly, and maybe Kasparas as some of the best like court vision guys and passers in this draft. Ben Seraph also has really good court vision. Another guy who can hit his threes this year, 27% from 3 over there in Germany. But you look at the size of 6'5", if he can translate his playmaking to the NBA level, man, there's a lot of appeal in that. And that could be like the Kyrie backup. That could be the Fred VanVleet backup going forward. And there will definitely be some value in Ben Seraph at the NBA level. Hugo Gonzalez, I struggle a little bit. Playing time has been sparse at Real Madrid. He's 6'6", good defender. But it's like, does he have much of an offensive game to him? I worry about it. And I think you're taking a huge risk. I think if you're a team like Utah or OKC that has multiple first-round picks, I would take a chance on it. But man, the international production is not there right now. So I don't think I would take him in the top 25. I don't think I would take him in the first round. I don't have a top 30 grade on him at the moment. And am I missing another international player? No, you have Sergio Delaria and you have like Noah Penda as well. Delaria, I think I'm butchering his name. I've watched just a little bit of him. I mean, the size intrigues me and the shot form intrigues me. I think I would much rather have. Like, I think if I'm ranking these international guys, it's probably Ben Seraph 1, probably Traore 2, Essengay 3, Sergio 4, Hugo 5. And then there's also Noah Penda. I don't know. Like, you're looking at him as a potential stretch 4. I think he's a little bit more productive right now overseas, but once again, top 20 pick, I don't think so. I think you're throwing like a dart at maybe like hoping like the lottery ticket's good in the second round. Joanne Berenger, who Gavoni and Jeremy Wu of ESPN had him as like their 12th guy on their big board. Man, I don't know. I don't see it. I think he's a couple years away from being a couple years away again. Not way more. Like, way better feel for the game is like Ulrich Chomsky, but I think you're looking into that sphere overseas big man that, I mean, like maybe even Goga Badatse, but he is nowhere near as productive as like Alperen Şengün was. Like, I think Alperen was like the MVP of the Turkish league. Berenger is averaging 4.5 points, 4.5 rebounds in 17 minutes per game over in, I believe he's playing in Croatia. But either way, I think you're looking at some interesting second round guys. Ding Pate, I like his defense. Alex Condon and Maxime Reynaud from Stanford. I like these guys as fringe first-round big man. Condon plays very well as a help defender at Florida. 6'11", was a freshman last year. And then Maxime Reynaud is a senior, I think. Yep, senior. True senior. Monster in the ACC this year. He's a monster on the glass. He's a monster inside. And I think he's polished enough where I would take him. If I saw him in the first round, I don't think I'd have any complaints. Guys that I like in the second round, I like Eric Dixon. I like Hunter Salas. I like Chaz Lanier. I love Yaxel Lendenborg to potentially go as like a fringe first rounder. I think I would take a flyer on Miles Bird, Ryan Kalkbrenner at the moment. And then I think JT Toppin should probably go back to school, get a bag, and go to one of the top SEC schools. Anybody else I kind of could mention a little bit just for a second or two? No, I mean, Isaiah Evans has kind of come onto the scene as of late. He's been getting more playing time over there at Duke. I mean, there's some offensive upside to his game, but I wonder, like, if he didn't go to the Drift, would he stay at Duke with, like, their incoming freshman class of the Boozer twins, and who knows if they get a transfer? I don't know if he would transfer Isaiah Evans, but I would think he's a top 45 pick. Tyrese Proctor, too. His shot has been consistent this year. 40% from 3, 35% from 3 last year. Good connecting piece. Good defender as well. Now, it helps he plays with some very good defenders over there at Duke, but hey, he goes to the NBA level. Think of him as like a Derek White prospect, not Derek White now. But I think he can be similar to like Derek White as a prospect. I kind of wanted to just look up Derek White's college numbers. 18 points. Yeah, 50% from the field, 40% from three over there at Colorado. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy me just rambling about the NBA draft. I hope you found that somewhat entertaining. I apologize if there was no real structure to that, but I kind of just wanted to hit a little bit on some of these prospects and their stock up, stock down. Do they need to improve over the last few weeks of the season? If you guys did enjoy it, appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, I really appreciate a rating and review over there as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.